Welcome once again to the City of Maple Grove Report. I'm Dave Kaiser from CCX Media. Thanks for joining us, along with Heidi Nelson, Maple Grove City Administrator. Welcome once again.
Thank you.
As you see, lots of papers. That's because there were a couple meetings before the council meeting on the 21st, and also a lot happening in the city. So we'll get to that in just a few minutes. Let's begin with the first meeting. So it was a full night. First meeting at 5:30 to talk about capital improvement plan. Again, remind us what this is, and this is kind of the last leg of the journey, I understand.
Yeah, so this was our second meeting with the council to review the capital improvement plan for the next 5-year time frame. We had focused previously on sort of government buildings, equipment, some park assets in our last work session, and then this wrapped it up covering roads and trails, and really reviewing kind of where those fund balances are and where we see we might have to do some work in the coming years to shore that up. We are planning to have a broader discussion over the winter months with the council. We've implemented a new pavement rating system, and so we're going to be reviewing that data in more detail and then talking about options. Really the biggest issue is funding road reconstruction, and we're not alone in that challenge. You know, as you know, today we assess for 50% of the road cost, and then the city tax levy bears 50% of it, and then of course the utility components are covered by the utility funds. So we're going to be talking about that because we in the upcoming years are going to fall short. Our project costs continue to increase on those road reconstructions, and we really haven't increased that levy number. So, and we know assessments are getting to a point, I think this last year they were $7,500 per residential lot, and so some concern about that. So more to come on the road reconstruction funding and kind of our standard of care, if you will, out there in terms of what we're going to set as policy in terms of what level we want our streets maintained at. But good opportunity here to review this information, talk about some key trail projects and how we might pursue some outside funding for those, and then going forward now the capital projects for 2024 sort of ride along with the budget process. The CIP document is posted on our website on our finance department page, so if folks are interested, you can go have a look there. Very kind of detailed document that talks about all the capital needs of the city for the future years.
That website, maplegrovemn.gov, if you want to find out more. Second item from that first session was with Hennepin County and a grant program that we've talked about for years, but some changes possibly coming. What was that discussion like? Yeah,
so this is just some changes to the Hennepin County Community Development Block Grant Program. So these are federal funds that flow down through the county that get distributed out to the cities. We're a direct there's a number of different classifications of how cities are administered through that program, but we are a direct allocation city, meaning that we would get a direct allocation from the county of some of those funds, and then we could prioritize within the goals of what CDBG is to be used for to projects in the Maple Grove community. So we currently use that funding to help support our scattered site housing program, those 28 units of housing that we have throughout the community for kind of affordable housing for families. And then we also designated a portion of it to the county's rehab program, specifically for homeowners in Maple Grove, and then the WALT program, which is the West Hennepin Area Land Trust, which helps build affordable housing in that would be directly in Maple Grove. Changes coming to that program where those funds will no longer be directly allocated to Maple Grove, and we'll have to sort of compete in the broader community pool. So some concern that those programs could lose funding to the benefit of our Maple Grove residents, and so we're still kind of looking at that. That change doesn't go into effect until 2026. We do have the opportunity, we could become an entitlement city and work directly with HUD at the federal level to receive dollars for programs, but there's a lot of administration that comes with that, and so we want to be certain we understand what that might be. So more to come on that, but maybe one of the symptoms or one of the outcomes of some of these changes at Hennepin County is an organization called Senior Community Services that provides services to seniors in the community. So with snow, home care, those types of things, snow removal, home care, you know, picking up leaves, that type of a thing. They have historically received some funding either through the city's allocation or through Hennepin County CDBG, and that funding has been dramatically reduced in recent years. So now Senior Community Services has been reaching out to the cities that they provide services in to request some support in funding there. So a lot of discussion at the county, you know, at the council level about this is kind of a result of some of this shifting around at the county, and should the city be, stepping in where the county had been. So more to come on these changes and what's coming up here, and I think we'll come back on that senior community services discussion as well. So not a lot of resolution to this item, but more questions, and I think more to come on this topic as well.
Very good. We'll keep you up to date. That was meeting number 1 of the night. Now meeting number 2 was a closed session to talk about the Lifetime Fitness building. Bring us up to date there.
Yeah. Our discussions continue, negotiations continue with Lifetime Fitness with regard to their facility. We continue to work towards beginning phase 2 design of the community center project. So, nothing new to report there other than just, negotiations ongoing, and we'll see where things head here towards the end of the year.
Regular council meeting, Ben, was hour 27 on the 21st. Nothing from consent was pulled, so let's go to the public hearings and some annual work that has to be done by the cities. Tell us what this was all about.
Yeah, so we go through this process every October to certify delinquent utility accounts, as well as delinquent weed and tree accounts. So if we're having to go out and do force mows, any type of tree removal, that type of thing, those then get assessed back to the property taxes if those bills remain unpaid.
Right.
In addition, we did have a couple of abatements, result of some code enforcement action where we're out abating issues at a property, and so if those bills aren't paid, then those get certified to the taxes as well. So those annual processes taking place to get that cleaned up to get to the county before November.
Very good. Next public hearing was Norsk Maple Grove easement vacation, and this is tied, I understand, to another item later on in the meeting. Tell us about the vacation.
Yeah, so this is a utility easement vacation, and this is related to the Norheim Maple Grove project. This is up kind of in the northwest quadrant of the city, just off of Gladstone, kind of north and west of Menards up in there, where there's a lot of development going on. So Norsk is the developer. The name of the development is Norheim Maple Grove. They had previously been in for a townhome project, and then it was to have an apartment building associated with it. They've shifted away from the apartments to do more of the townhomes. These are a rental townhome product.
Right.
So they went from 200 units of apartments to another 53 units of the townhomes. And so a lot of discussion here about the green space and additional parking and a little bit more amenity in the project. And so with those changes that the developer brought forward following that Planning Commission consideration, it's actually denied at Planning Commission, and then the developer kind of went back to the drawing board on a few things. And so then this one did get approval. And then so subsequently then that easement vacation takes effect as well.
Very good. So those two tied together. And that one item was in community and economic development items. Let's go to the first item. There was Weaver Lake Drive North. We have a plat that's being split.
Yeah, so this is just a single family lot in the Weaver Lake area, right at the corner of Weaver Lake Drive and Peony Lane North. So kind of a larger lot in there that had sort of the depth and width to be split into two. So the new lot will take its access from Peony Lane, and then the existing home there that fronts off Weaver will remain. So look to see a new home there constructed along Peony Lane.
Largest item of the evening was about 40 minutes of discussion around Elm Creek Vista, a planned unit development. Again, a little background here. How big is this? Where is this located? And what was decided?
Yeah, so southwest Maple Grove in the Elm Road area, 6-lot subdivision. These are always complicated because we have a lot of things at play in this area with the Elm Creek, floodway, floodplain, wetlands, all those types of things. There's certain tree protections that exist in this area, whether they're in the shoreland district around the creek or sometimes in a tree preservation zone. So these developments are always complicated down here, but they are creating beautiful neighborhoods down there in the southwest area of Maple Grove. So a lot of discussion, it really came down to a lot of discussion about kind of the engineering of the site and how water would flow through there. We saw during Planning Commission some video of, if you recall back in 2016, we had that very significant rain event, which was really like a 500-year storm event. And during that time, time, the floodplain indeed did flood in that area. It's designed to function in that way, to sort of hold and convey that water during those times of high rain events. So reviewed all that. We had Crystal Bowney, our city engineer, kind of talk through the mechanics of the creek and when you might see more water there and then into the floodway, and how the wetlands also act as sort of a storm retention in those areas. And then in times of high rain or spring melt, those types of things, what that floodplain movement might look like. We have seen in most of these developments down in that area some amendment to that floodplain, where there may be an area filled to create a lot, and then that is mitigated in another area where new floodplain is created to help to make sure that that water has space to be. So lots of good presentation by the city engineer there. If you're one that was watching this development, I encourage you to go back and look. A lot of good graphics that kind of show how water functions in that area. But good work also by the developer, just engaging with the community here, and then kind of responding, to the staff's concerns or questions about that. It's always this balance about, you could create more floodplain, but then you're doing more tree removal, and so there's always sort of this balancing act in there. But I think this one will be good here. It got approval then following a lot of that discussion, and we'll see that one moving forward likely in the spring.
Very good. And the next item was the Norheim Maple Grove development, which we touched on earlier, related to that vacation. Next item was the zoning ordinance text amendment, and this is something that we've talked about in the past about garages in the city. What's the update here?
Yeah, so this really has to do when we do like a lot split or a new building permit for a home on a lot, where it's really talking about the need for a 2-stall garage in those areas. So we've had a couple circumstances where we've done a lot split, and maybe there was an existing structure on one of the lots that would be remaining, that type of thing. So just kind of cleans up some of that zoning language to ensure that that's covered when we're doing a lot split or issuing a building permit.
Report on upcoming community and economic development items. The first item there is Planning Commission coming up in the middle of November, and a few items there related to schools.
Yeah, so Maple Grove, the staff at Maple Grove, or I should say Osseo Area Schools, District 279, have been very busy following the passing of that bond referendum a couple years ago, getting ready for these additions to schools, as well as constructing a new elementary school in Maple Grove. So they're planning for a pretty significant addition up at Maple Grove Senior High, and then also constructing that new elementary school that's up in the northwest quadrant of Maple Grove, just kind of off of Arbor Ridge Parkway, east of County Road 101. So we will see both of those plans in front of the Planning Commission on November 12th. That meeting shifts to Tuesday because of the Veterans Day holiday on Monday, but that's kind of exciting to see those school plans come forward. A lot of coordination there between the city and the school district in terms of, in the elementary school area, there's some new roads that need to be constructed, extension utilities, that type of thing. And then certainly with regard to the high school, sort of how they're going to be reconfiguring some parking and access points there. We have a project pending on Fernbrook Lane there between 81 and County Road 30, and so wanting to make sure that we're coordinating all of those things, and that at the end of the day, pedestrian traffic works better along that corridor, and the vehicle movements are maybe a little bit better than they are today. So high level of coordination here between city staff and district staff bringing these projects forward. And then we have a couple zoning text amendments here, just sort of codifying some of our neighborhood or community engagement efforts when we have a new subdivision. And then the cannabis management, or the rules and regulations around how cannabis will be functioning in our community continues to evolve a little bit. There were some tweaks to legislation that the League of Minnesota Cities has now made some recommendations. So we'll have a couple of tweaks to our ordinances there about hours of operation, those types of things dealing with cannabis as we get ready for 2025. Yes.
Couple business updates as well in this section. Some we had touched on the last time, but there's a few new ones coming as well. Always something new in Maple Grove related to businesses.
Yeah, so we have a new French bakery over at the shops, Tous les Jours. They are having a ribbon cutting on the 26th of October, and then Rally House. It's a new retailer kind of up in the Barnes & Noble, Ashley Furniture run up there, Maple Grove Crossing. That's kind of a sporting goods or sportswear type store. So welcome to both of those new businesses to Maple Grove, and wish them all the best.
Very good. To Engineering Public Works, let's give you a quick update of what was touched on here with the leaves falling. It's time to get something done on the streets to clean those leaves up. What happens?
Yeah, so we are out doing street sweeping, trying to protect those from going down the storm drains that gets into the streams and the lakes and affects water quality. And so our crews are out getting that street sweeping done before. It doesn't feel like we're even thinking about snow yet, but with it being, it's a little cooler today, but
yes,
yesterday I think it was 80 degrees, so, but it's good to get that all picked up before we start getting into the winter months. And then we also have, just a heads up, an Xcel Energy project kind of up by their substation off of Fernbrook Lane. There will be some work kind of between 81 and that area, likely some road closures along Fernbrook, so if that's your route of travel, you might want to take a heads up there and pay attention to the signage as to when there might be some closures of that corridor.
Good to know. And your update at the meeting talked about elections.
Yeah.
It's that time where it's very busy at the government center, isn't it?
It is very busy at the government center. So we are having a high, I think we did 530 absentee voters last Friday. I think Fridays are a big day. People might be off that day or have more time to come in and vote. So we have some extended hours coming up. These are a result of some changes, legislative changes regarding hours for early voting. This Saturday, October 26th from 9 to 3, and then Saturday and Sunday, even November 2 and 3 from 9 to 3, we will have election staff there for early voting. And then Monday, November 4th, we'll be there from 8 to 5 that day, so a little bit extended time on election eve. And then those voting in person on election day can find their polling location at mn.votes.org. So if you just want to search that up and find your precinct. And we did make some changes in the last few years, but if you haven't voted for a little bit, you might want to make sure you check that. We did reduce precinct numbers because of the volume of absentee or early voting that we're doing. All Maple Grove precincts are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Tuesday, November 5th. And then if you're looking for candidate information, the CCX Media website has lots of information there. Osseo Maple Grove Press has candidate statements that were published in the October 3rd edition of the paper. And then of course our city website provides a lot of links to those points of information about candidates as well. So lots of information out there about the election, but if you're coming to the government center, expect a crowd. I left there just a little bit ago and it was very busy, and we just remain so grateful to all of the election judges that help us out. We pull in a lot of the election judges that serve, they used to mainly serve on election day, and now we're having extra staff in for 2-3 weeks prior to the election because of the volume of voting that we're doing, and we couldn't do it without them. They are a wonderful addition to our team, so just ask everybody, come with patience and understand that we're working through it as fast as we can, and these folks that are working there, they're your neighbors, and they are serving the community, and so we hope folks come in that spirit and keep a positive civil environment at the government center.
And as we record this update, there is one more candidate forum coming up on the 24th, correct? And that's the school board. Yeah,
School Board District 279, and that'll be held at the Brooklyn Park City Hall. But you guys will have that live here as well, CCX Media, and you'll be able to watch that back afterwards as well.
Very good. So those were the reports from the meeting, and then there was one item at the very end that related to a consent item earlier on. Just tell us what that was about.
Yeah, so we had a zoning ordinance text amendment that dealt with the prohibiting retail sales of dogs and cats. So this really gets to, our pet stores in town not being able to have retail sales of dogs and cats. And this sort of gets after the puppy mill issue. So this was a request that we had from a resident that was passionate about this issue, and quick review of our code and determined that would be a pretty easy fix there. We know a lot of our pet stores and towns will do adoption events, which is wonderful. We love that they partner with, Humane Society, those types of things,
right.
Rescues to get those pets adopted out, but, now prohibiting sort of that retail sales that often comes from sort of those puppy mill type locations for sale of dogs and cats.
All right, let's move ahead then to some other things happening in the city. And the first is October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and Maple Grove doing quite a bit around that.
Yeah, this is an important time for us. We had worked with Maria's Voice on the domestic violence vigil earlier in October, lovely event over at Central Park. So if you are coming by the Government Center or downtown in the evening, best time to see, of course. The Maple Grove Public Safety Facility doors are lit up purple, the front of the building, as well as town green. So lovely recognition there, just an important event. We continue to hear these stories in the news of people losing their lives to domestic violence or domestic violence incidents, and so just wanting to make sure folks know they're not alone, and there's resources out there. We'll be running some billboards during the month of October here out on 94 as well, and so lots of information available out there about where to find help if you're in an unsafe situation at home.
And a lot of the purple lights around town too to remind you of that. All right, here's a fun one for the kids. Mayor for a Day essay contest. Tell us who the partner is and what this is all about.
Yeah, this is the League of Minnesota Cities that does this annually. The deadline for essay submissions is December 13th, and you do that all online at the League website, which is lmc.org. So it really asks kids to write an essay about what our cities would look like if kids were in charge.
Yeah.
The League of Minnesota Cities is accepting entries for 4th, 5th, and 6th graders throughout the state of Minnesota for their Mayor for a Day contest. And we've had in the past some of the essays that were submitted from Maple Grove kids selected, and that was kind of fun to have them in and tell the mayor what they think they would do if they were mayor for a day.
Kids, get to work with that. Reminder of a police online reporting tool. Again, remind us what that is and how residents can use that.
Yeah, so great online reporting tool that you can use to report parking complaints, abandoned vehicles, bicycles, lost or missing property, scams, property damage, vandalism, those types of things. Clearly, if it's an emergency beyond any of these types of conditions, you can call 911. Right. But this is just a great way to do some online reporting where, I know oftentimes people feel like, geez, I don't want to call 911 and get an officer out here. It's just not, there's other things they should be attending to. So this is a great way to do that. In fact, I've referred a couple people there this week for similar situations. So I think our officers are then able to, look at those complaints and respond to them and get those assigned out to investigations if there's, something to be had there. So great new tool that kind of helps us manage call volume at night with 911, but also make sure these types of crimes are being reported in the community.
Yep, and through the city's website you can find out more about that. All right, we're going to talk a lot about fall here for the next minute or so. First, fall trees. What's happening with the trees and the tree areas in town? Yeah,
so we have a couple of events coming up. Our city forester, Arbor Committee, Rotary Club, and other volunteers have been very active this fall. We did the annual tree sale, seedling plantings along Cedar Island Lake and Hemlock Ponds Park. I heard about that at Rotary earlier this week. That was kind of fun to hear.
The ground's a little hard, right? They're having a tough time putting the seeds in.
We need some rain.
Yes, that would be nice.
So hopefully it rains tomorrow night, and Tom Anderson doesn't have to be out watering in that area. Right. So buckthorn removal in the forest preservation area, and then the roadside cleanup of Vicksburg Lane. So really appreciate sort of the efforts of all these groups coming together to make Maple Grove a more beautiful place to be, and planting trees for the future here, especially in areas where we're removing buckthorns so that those trees can grow and thrive. So thanks to everybody who's been involved.
With fall, you've got leaves falling down. They're really starting to come down now, and you've got the site to get rid of those.
Yeah, so our yard waste site will be open through the end of November, so you've got plenty of time here. Free to residents, just need to bring your Maple Grove ID, and of course that's located right off of Maple Grove Parkway and 610.
Few engineering and public work items here. First, the fall cleanup events. There were a couple that occurred recently, and success.
Yeah, so these events are always popular fall and spring. So this year we had 160 recyclable items collected either curbside or dropped off at Public Works. And a lot of them tend to be appliances, so it's just a great way for folks to get rid of those unwanted items. So appreciate the Public Works staff that makes that happen both spring and fall.
getting around town a little easier now. I almost tried this bridge the other day, but wasn't quite sure if it is open, but now we know it's open.
Yeah.
Which bridge is that?
Yeah, so the Highway 169 63rd Avenue bridge replacement is substantially complete and it's open to traffic. So in addition to replacing that bridge over 169, the project included extending acceleration lanes on 169, which was needed.
Yes.
Constructing a multi-use trail, making sure there's good pedestrian connections there. ADA improvements, of course, at the crossings, and then signs at the exits to eastbound I-94 and 694. So we know this was an impact to residents and businesses in that area, but when they can close it like this and replace it, it moves pretty quickly, kind of in a season. So, and maybe on a related note, further up the highway, 169 Elm Creek Boulevard is back open, but with some lane and weight restrictions there. We continue to work with MnDOT on what is going to happen there, because we do have a project planned. It was targeted for a 27 construction for replacing that interchange. With this damage, we have a lot of truck traffic in that area with what happens in the gravel mining area. So a lot of feedback being provided to MnDOT from those operators about how sort of this lane restriction, weight restriction is impacting their operations. Certainly there's other routes for folks to go north and back east, but we're hoping to be able to advance that here, given what happened out there and the damage and what the impacts will be, over a longer period. So more to come on that, but that's a huge, pretty significant point of focus for our engineering team right now.
We'll keep you up to date on that. Let's go to the community center. A few things happening there. The first is an annual event that you might want to get in on. What is going on in early November?
Yeah, so we have our 10% off rates for our membership packages at the community center. Includes all building, pool only, or pickleball only. So just a great time to start planning for the winter months here. November 1 through 7, the sale runs can be purchased online or in person over at the community center as well.
And if you go to the community center to pick up that pass, you might notice a little construction. How's that coming along?
It is coming along. If there's one thing dry weather is good for, it's construction. Sure. So there's, that we haven't had that to contend with. In fact, we've been contending with some dust in the alternative and had to get some water trucks out there. So lots of utility work, excavation going on for stormwater retention systems. That they did sort of an underground chamber there to help store water on site. We're sort of limited in space, so not a lot of space for huge storm ponds, so we're doing some of that underground. Some soil correction in and around where that new arena will go. Foundation underpinning should be completed soon. Underground electrical work, reinstallation of light poles, and then we're going to be getting after sort of those parking lots. That southwest parking lot should be paved here before the winter comes along, and then we'll be shifting some of that work around. So things seem to be on time and on budget over there, so moving along pretty swiftly, and we'll start to see those walls on that third sheet of ice go vertical, and then they're going to be working inside over the winter months.
Very nice. It is coming. All right, a new park in the city. Let's go up to the northwest area. What is the name of the new park and what's happening there? Yeah,
so this is Village Park, and so most of the site work there has been completed. The bocce court turf has been installed. The playground is scheduled for completion later this month, and then now the focus is shift to landscaping, irrigation, lighting. This is kind of in the area back behind the hospital, Minnesota Health Village. There's two kind of new apartment housing projects back there. So this project will serve that area and all the residents kind of up in that area, up behind the hospital and in that northwest area.
All right, we'll blitz through the last couple items in our final minute or two here. Fall transitions, just some of the great parks in the city are having some things change because of the seasons.
Yeah, so Central Park is closed for the season. Skate Loop targeted to open around Thanksgiving. I saw the Sport Dome going up this morning when I came in, open around November 1, as well as the walking track. Farmers Market's going to move inside to the community center. Their November dates are the 7th and the 19th, and those hours will be 3 to 6. We have a fun event coming up at the community center, or I should say on the other side of the community center on the Main Street side. Saturday, October 26th from 1 to 4. This is Trunk or Treat. Invited to come in your Halloween costume for trunk and treat activities that day. And then we have our Veterans Day ceremony that will be held over at the Veterans Day Memorial on Monday, November 11th at 11 a.m. This is put on by the Maple Grove Beyond the Yellow Ribbon organization, as well as the commander of the Osseo Maple Grove American Legion. So So appreciate their service to bring that event and all the veterans who have served on Monday, November 11th.
You bet. Great events coming up. Hope you can get involved. Heidi, thanks for the update today. A lot of information to pack into a half hour. Let's leave you quickly with the next council meeting date on the website. There you see that next date is Monday, November 4th. Website at the bottom left. Again, maplegrovemn.gov, the place to find out much more information about what we've talked about today. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.